And so if you're into cat videos, they're out there on TikTok, but I'm on there as well. So if you're there, follow me there. Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon. I am a musician as well, as you can probably tell from the guitars. I do space music, all instrumental. It's music that's geared toward the observer, as best I can say. I know some of my friends, Brian Lippincott and Don Davies, they're definitely check out my stuff, and I appreciate you guys that listen to the music. Spotify has been going pretty well these days for me. So, who knows, maybe music career is on the horizon. I don't know, probably not. But that's me. I did want to mention real quick that I really appreciate you guys going after the Astronomical League Awards. I'm Master Observer through the Astronomical League. Don't ask me to name the 10 awards that I got, the 5 core, and then Carbon Star, Solar HA, and you name it. I did a few of those. So pursue those awards, guys. They're very good. They will, like a member mentioned earlier, they will definitely hone your skills, and they'll get you out. They will get you out and dusting the dust off your equipment. So very good, guys. I'm so happy that y'all do that, and so happy that y'all do outreach as well. So like I said, I do a lot of star parties. This was taken at Okie-Tex this last year. This is just a time lapse of images that I took off my my Sony camera. The camera is a Sony A7S Mark II. I know it's a lot, but if y'all missed it, we can cover that in questions, or you can message me and I'll send you a link to one. It's a brilliant camera. These are all single frames. These aren't stacked. These are taken right off the camera and put into an editing software, like a video editing software, where I just change the duration, and then it strings them together like this as you see them. And these videos are all up on my YouTube, so you can check those out if y'all feel like it. I usually put some fun music over it. You see gravity waves out there, which is an atmospheric phenomenon, not gravitational waves, but gravity waves, which are pretty cool. So check those videos out if y'all get bored. Maybe it'll get you inspired to go out and observe. Who knows? This is another single frame. This is a self-portrait. The first picture I showed y'all were all single frames. These are not stacked. The Sony A7S Mark II is the best camera on the market for if you're lazy like me and you want to take a picture and then go home. This is basically what it is. And I did some Photoshop fun and, raising the levels and bringing some of the contrast up or down, whatever. But these are all single shots that I'm showing you here. Y'all might recognize that handsome young gentleman there, Mr. Trey Phillips, standing stoically as a sentinel of astronomy there. Darcy, I think, is Darcy on the eyepiece there. And that's his, what size is that, Terry? It's a 24?
25 f4.
25 f4, yeah. Beautiful telescope. And if you guys haven't got a chance to go observe with Terry, you got to get out and look through that. It's a Spica eyes. It's a very, very awesome telescope. But I like to go around the star parties and be like, hey, you want a picture with the Milky Way? And everybody's like, of course, yes, thank you. And I'll do a shot of everybody as I go around. I found this one of Mr. Brian Lippincott down there on the left with his refractor, doing some hardcore astronomy out at the Prude Ranch for one of the Texas star parties. Dawn is, I think, just behind me on the ground going through one of her logs at the particular moment that this picture was taken. But you can see her scopes back there. And you can see the mountain of the Prude Ranch, or just behind the Prude Ranch back there. So shout out to my homies, Brian and Don. I always star party with them. It's always a great time. And so a little bit about our club real quick. We are the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas, and we are hardcore outreach astronomers. There's my buddy Eddie Trevino in the back, black shirt. He's doing a little bit of solar HA, or hydrogen alpha. You can see on our thing, we do a little split screen there. Even the Great American Cookie got some views of the sun through one of my refractors. Probably didn't get a very good look because they were a little further back from the eyepiece, but they did okay. This is an event called Kids Fest. It's in Port Arthur, Texas, down here in the swamp. And hundreds of people come out to this. And so they have us come out. It's like free food, free hot dogs, free drinks for all the kids and everybody involved. And they have the fire trucks, the SWAT teams, all the fun stuff come out and kind of set up and the kids can climb up in the boats and the tanks and check out our telescopes as well, which is pretty cool addition. Normally we show the sun. Here we're showing the moon and the sun since both were out. And there's my wife actually showing somebody how to look in a telescope there. Doug Donnier in the back, Brenda Tansett over there, Chuck Ferguson, who's here tonight. Shout out to all my asset peeps. I saw Sharon was here and Tasha. There's our friend Doug Donnier in the back. I think I mentioned him, but this is my core group of outreach. I have about 5 to 10 that are my core, and we do outreach single-handedly, if you will. And outreach is important, guys. That's one thing I will stress. You'll probably get tired of hearing me talk about it because y'all are already on the ball, which I'm so glad to hear that, and it makes me excited that y'all are doing that because Austin is an area that needs it for sure. We need more of this. Okay, so a little bit about some iPhone photography. This is a single shot of the moon. I know the bar over there on the right is kind of in the way, but that's okay. Y'all get the idea. And all these pictures are on my Instagram and my Facebook. So if you go out there and find them, you can check them out. Just a little bit of EXIF on this particular image. It was taken with an Explorer Scientific ED-102, which is a triplet refractor, Pentax eyepiece, and iPhone 11 Pro, essentially. The rest of that stuff is just kind of whatever. You have to have a mount to drive it, and you have to have a way to hold the phone up to the eyepiece. And that's not always true, but for, I think, a lot of us, if you've had a little too much coffee that day, you know, trying to get up to the eyepiece, you can kind of move things around. You can keep it steady though, guys. You can do amazing things with the iPhone, and I'll show you a little bit more about what I'm talking about. But again, this is a single frame in the iPhone. Processing done inside it. I'm not an Apple employee. They aren't paying me. I sing the praises of this thing because it has great cameras. If you have a Samsung, they do just as well. So get after it with your Samsungs. Put your scope on the moon and try. I promise you, by the time you get the image, you'll be like, whoa, that's insane that you can get that. So a little bit about what I've done recently with the iPhone and a telescope. The other night, I checked the Iss Transit Finder, which is an app that will allow you to check where the ISS is going to cross the moon or the sun. And if you set up a scope inside the path of totality, if you will, you can catch what you see over here, which is you see that little TIE fighter going across the moon. That's actually the International Space Station. I say TIE fighter because 9 out of 10 comments online are, that's not the space station, that's a TIE fighter. And I'm like, man, that's really original. Thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. And I'm going to write it down because I've never heard it before. Of course, that's not true. But what I did the other night was I did something I've never done before. And it was the path of the ISS was right over my house. Shockingly, I didn't have to travel for this one. So I was like, you know, I'm just going to run some iPhone high speed, which is 240 frames a second. And you can see there the ISS slowly transiting the moon. This is a 1.92 second pass. So this is a elapsed time of 2 seconds that you're seeing here over, you know, course of several seconds, which is pretty cool. And I did this because every other time I've done it with lower frame rates, you get a sort of a, you know, boom, 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 and then it's gone. With here, you actually get that smooth motion, which makes it just absolutely gorgeous. And Tycho, you know, Tycho craters right there, nice contrast. Gives you a little bit of perspective to show you this thing's the size of a football field flying across the sky at 18,000 miles an hour. And the moon is that big, you know, the moon is huge, and the moon is like 240,000 miles away. This is, you know, it's absurd, the perspective that it gives you. But all this is with an iPhone, y'all. So there's so much you can do with that. And I encourage you to at least try. This is another video that I took with my iPhone. I do these on YouTube. I call them the Postcards from the Moon, which I totally ripped that off from Texas Parks and Wildlife's Postcards from Texas. If you watch their show on like PBS, which I'm obsessed with, they have incredible at the end of it's just video from somewhere in Texas for about 2 minutes. That's all you get. You get quiet video, little streams running or birds chirping, whatever. So I do these as a part of my online outreach, where before I go and do a lunar live cast, I do these short videos. I just take the video on my phone, and then I go into a video editor like the next day and cut together a little scene. There's Rupus Recta. You can see the straight wall down there. I don't know if y'all can see my arrow. Can y'all see my arrow when I move it around, or is it? Yeah, so that's Plato. You've got all the recognizable craters,
Plato.
all kinds of fun stuff available. But April 1st was a special night for me while shooting the moon. Again, this is, all iPhone. This is what I call the Lunar Texas, by the way, guys. There's Moltke crater right there, and the Apollo 11 landing site is right out there. But if you look, it's kind of a backwards Texas in this view. It's a refractor. But I encourage y'all to look for that. It's right next to the Moltke crater. Clavius down here. It's a beautiful big crater, always recognizable, always fun. So I'm filming the moon this night. I was doing a live stream on Facebook, and what I'll do is I'll kind of get to the fun part here. I've always seen airplanes get close to the moon, but never quite crossed it until tonight. And then so what I'll do here is I'll run it from right here. And I was live streaming on Facebook, by the way. And, that obviously that's what the text says. And I wasn't looking at the screen at the time that this happened. But then that happened. And if I can kind of roll it back here, that's, I think my aviation expert friend of mine said it looks like an Airbus of some kind. Could be a 737. But it's gone in the blink of an eye. And that's just one of the cool things you can capture with an iPhone and a telescope. I mean, it's just right there. There's not much setup involved. It's quick to take down, quick to set up. And you can capture amazing stuff like that. That video right there on TikTok has 1.5 million views on it, which insert the laugh emoji there. Like, what? I filmed the moon hundreds of times for years, and I get millions of views on a jet crossing the moon. And so it's like, okay, whatever. I guess the internet latches onto what they latch onto. So just another example. Quick thing about the moon, since we're on the subject of the moon, back in 2019, January 2019, we all had a total lunar eclipse, unless you had clouds. We had a total lunar eclipse, and we did an outreach event as Asset. We did it at, thank you. We did it at a park not far from here called Claiborne Park. It's in between Beaumont and Vidor. And we had a good showing from the public. And I videoed the entire eclipse, because why would anyone do that? I don't know why. I just felt like I want to video the entire eclipse in 4K. Let's go for it. So I had my little refractor set up, and I videoed the eclipse, and it was a great night. We all had a great day. And then the next day, my friends hitting me up like, did you catch the explosion? I'm like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're saying. And then they're like, check your data. And I did. And I caught the lunar impact on the moon, which what I'll do here, this is a YouTube video. Again, it's on my YouTube. You can go there and check it out. And I'll just put it to right about here. It's a little easier to see when I blow it up, but you can see that tiny flash there. And I have it looped. And then I talk about how I slow it down. I was incredibly excited that I caught this. I've heard about TLEs, transient lunar events, or whatever they're calling them these days, impacts. And I'd always heard about it, never caught one. I mean, who catches these things? You have to be constantly filming the moon to catch this kind of stuff. And I got lucky on January of 2019. And this was my first, quote, viral video. It went nuts. Sky and Telescope published it on their website, which was pretty incredible. Thank you, Bob King. If you're out there somewhere, you're the man. But it got lots of views and lots of fanfare. And believe it or not, this has less views than the jet crossing the moon, which is absurd. This is a far more amazing and rare event. But whatever. But there it is. You can see that in my video, I caught, I think, 4 or 5 frames. I was running at about 30 frames a second in 4K. So I think I'm the only person on the planet that has it in 4K, although I can't be sure of that. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong there. Other people caught it on video and pictures, of course, but I may be the only one with 4K, because who does that? I mean, who runs for 4 hours video on the moon? I mean, not many sane people anyway. But because I was just being crazy and weird at an outreach event, I was able to catch this. So the virtues of outreach can never be understated, I don't think. We'll just keep moving along here. This is a single shot iPhone photo, handheld. I didn't even have my Celestron mount. That's awesome. I think you should all buy one. Not sponsored by Celestron or anything, but I handheld this up to my friend Mark Farage's. There you go. Brian has one. I recommend that 1,000 times. I don't recommend anything else. Take your nearest iPhone adapter that you bought that's not the Celestron XYZ and throw it in a river. And then go buy a Celestron XYZ, because that thing is epic for lots of reasons. But this is the kind of image you can get. Now, I will preface this by saying this is a 25-inch f4 obsession telescope with a military grade night vision that cost half as much as the scope itself, rammed into the eyepiece, which I'll explain in a second a little bit more about. This is the Lagoon Nebula, for those of y'all that might be able to recognize it. And it's the Lagoon Nebula with the hydrogen alpha filter, a 7 nanometer hydrogen alpha filter put on the front of this thing. If you take that 2-inch hydrogen alpha filter and you hold it up to the sky with your eye, you can't see through it. But yet you put it on the night vision and then ram that into a 25-inch telescope, and you'll see nebula like you've never seen it, y'all. I can't describe it to you. I think Brian and Don has definitely looked through these with our friend Ed in his scope Elvira. I think maybe even Terry got a bunch of night vision views out there at the Texas Star Party. It's amazing. And what I love about it is it really brings out, look at the dark nebula that sort of surround the lagoon that you'll never see visually. You know, maybe if you're really good or if you put a filter on and try really hard. But most of that stuff is never going to jump out at you like it kind of is in these images. It's just absolutely fantastic. And so here's how we do it. You take a normal telescope and you put the night vision, which is this apparatus here, onto a normal eyepiece like this TeleVue 41 Panoptic, which I say normal. That's really not a normal eyepiece. It's a hand grenade of an eyepiece. But you can see this is Elvira, a friend of ours named Ed Allen, built this scope from scratch. And if you haven't seen this scope, you need to. It's absolutely amazing. But what we're doing here is we're letting the light go through the telescope. It's coming out the eyepiece, and then we're taking a military grade image enhancer, this night vision right here, and we're amplifying the image. The reason I bring all this up is because this could be game changing for outreach astronomy, for elderly, for people who have vision impairment. Maybe they can see a little, but they can't see really faint things. This should help some of them bring these objects into their grasp and their reality. And you're not looking at a picture, you're not looking at a digital image of the thing, you're looking at the thing, the active photons that are falling onto that mirror at that exact moment, which is a special thing. They're insanely expensive. Cost prohibitive in some respects, but I think as the time goes on and as this technology becomes better and better, we may see that price come down. But this is essentially it. And then I take my cell phone and I hold it right up to the end here where your eyeball goes, right at the edge here. If I go to my next one, you can see that's where you'll normally look inside there. So it's got a nice wide sort of exit pupil area where you can get in there and get a good image. The scope itself, the little night vision scope, is 1x, meaning that it's no magnification. But the telescope does all the magnifying for us. And you can see the Elvira plate there. It's a beautiful telescope, guys. If y'all do get a chance, this handle down here, you grab it and it knows when you grab the scope, so the clutches release, and you'll hear the scope go "Rrrr" when you grab the hand, and then you move it to where you want to in the sky. And as soon as you let it go, it goes "Rrrr," and now the gauges or the clutches are engaged again, and the telescope is tracking. It's a beautiful, beautiful telescope, and again, you got to check it out. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So these are the kind of images you can get. This is the Omega Nebula, as many of y'all are probably very familiar, but you notice that there's a whole lot more nebula there than there normally is. And this is that hydrogen alpha filter with the night vision enhancing. So again, you're not going to see this image if you go to a telescope normally, but if you do it on a night vision scope, you'll see it. And these are great for, like I said, for maybe the elderly who have kind of lost some of the ability to see some of these objects visually, this definitely brings it into their wheelhouse. This is the Dumbbell in hydrogen alpha, which is different than the Dumbbell in white light or regular light. You'll notice it almost, like my buddy Lonnie Mosley from the Beaumont Club said, it kind of looks like a drill bit coming right at you, you know? And I can kind of see that if I tilt my head the right way. But I think it's a pretty interesting view that you don't normally get. And these are all one shot, by the way. I stuck the camera up to it and just tapped it handheld, just took a picture. And by the way, some of these are 3 seconds. The iPhones now can do multiple second exposures handheld, and it's crazy. Now you see some coma around the edges. That's in the scope itself, in the night vision monocular, not in the telescope. These were actually taken through my buddy Mark Farage's 25-inch at the Prude Ranch. We went to the Prude Ranch for what would have been Texas Star Party, and there were maybe 10 of us out there. We're all very well spread out. We're all yelling at each other like, "Hey, go look at NGC something or other." You know, and you hear a bunch of people moving their scopes around. It's good times. Even though we were socially distant, it was still a good time. And we had 10 clear nights, or 9 clear nights, whatever it was, straight, which was insane. This is video. This is live video that I rolled straight off my phone of the Dumbbell. You can see I kind of zoom in there. You can see the scintillation, which is sort of the little flashes that you see. That's a product of the night vision. And yeah, exactly. It's a drill bit, right? I mean, or somebody spinning a pole very fast and there's motion blur. I don't know, a lightsaber. But it's pretty cool apparatus, and it definitely lets you see these objects in real time, which is crazy. The Crescent Nebula, I know a lot of y'all are familiar with the Crescent. It's in Cygnus. This is really a photographic object. I mean, you look at this even with a 30-inch telescope, you may see this area down here by this star, maybe this little area here, but none of this over here will you ever see visually. And the night vision allows you to do things like that. I mean, we were looking at Einstein's cross at the El Dorado Star Party with these night visions, and it was a galaxy. It was a thin little galaxy. It was pretty impressive. Speaking of galaxies, here's Sculptor. And I put this image in there because you can see it had a little guest when I took the picture. That's a meteor actually coming in. One of those, we've all seen them, right? When you go to the eyepiece, you're looking and you're like, I kind of see a galaxy, and then a meteor streaks across, right? This is one that I accidentally caught almost through the galaxy. It's like if it just could have been a little bit, or maybe I should have been a little further over on the planet somewhere and it could have crossed in the middle, but it's fine. It kind of adds a little bit of something extra. But that's a dim meteor right there. Would we have seen that naked eye? Maybe not. I don't know, because these night vision binoculars do a pretty good job. I forget the name of this NGC. Beautiful edge on. What's that?
891.
That's 891. Yeah, it could very well be. Yeah.
Perseus.
I love edge on galaxies. And they're one of my favorite things to observe visually. And again, I am a visual observer, believe it or not. This is like what I do here, what I'm showing y'all is like what I do in between visually looking. So, but it's amazing what these things can do. And then of course, who can not know what this is? So I'll call it by its IC name, IC434. And I have a saying about ICs, and if it says IC, you probably won't. But if you try hard enough, sometimes you can. But this is an IC that a lot of us see when Orion comes around. It's the horse head, and the night vision. Just again, guys, with that H alpha filter, and it pops nebula, especially dark nebula, like all the Barnards and the Bok globules that are out there. It kills them. So if you have an extra $4 or $5 grand laying around, just throw it at one of these binoculars and you're good to go. But it's a beautiful thing. Again, this is a single shot off my cell phone. I don't know of any time in history where we've been able to do that and get something that was viable. And my whole thing is I share these images, and getting them out is a huge part of what we do as astronomers, and getting this out there, getting it out, putting it out there in the world. So you got to do outreach however you can, really. And I threw this in there because I was asked one time to go to Mount Wilson and observe through the 100-inch Hooker telescope. the telescope that Edwin Hubble did all of his observations, well, most of them, you know, when he discovered that the universe is expanding. Of course, there was other observatories involved, but Mount Wilson, this is a very famous telescope. So many famous names. I could probably sit here and name names. I know Albert Einstein was standing in a similar place to where I was down here. You can see me there next to the scope, which it's a big scope. It's a big old thing. And it smells like a warship in there. If you've ever been to an old like World War II ship and gone and toured it, that's what it smells like. And I don't know why that really stuck with me, but you can just smell the early 1900s all over this thing. You know what I mean? It kind of had that vibe to it. Now, this is where you actually look. You can see me looking into the eyepiece here. This is an Explorer Scientific refractor. And what happens is the light comes in, it bounces off the 100-inch mirror, it goes up to a secondary and then down to a tertiary, which bounced up into this tube that looks like a sewer pipe, basically, with these massive diagonals. That's the biggest diagonal I've ever seen in my life right there. And then it's into another telescope. And that's how you view things. So it's incredible. And it's only about $4.5 or $5 grand to rent this thing for a full night. So again, if you have this money, I was invited. I didn't have to pay a cent to go do this, thanks to my friends Stefan, Nikki, Waz, Mark, and Mike from Australia. They came over from Sydney, did a Texas Star party with us, and we had an amazing night. All night, 30% humidity, clear skies on Mount Wilson, amazing. So what I did was I stuck a bunch of, you know, when we got certain objects in the eyepiece, I stuck my phone up to the eyepiece to capture what I was getting. Now, this is a single shot of Jupiter from the iPhone off the 100-inch Hooker telescope. Very little processing. I mean, I dropped the contrast and kind of brought out some sharpness and things like that. But this is the kind of stuff you can do with the iPhone with a big enough aperture. I don't think most of us can afford 100 inches at this particular time. Maybe some of us could. This is one of Saturn off the same telescope. You can see the Cassini division is blatantly obvious. I mean, you've got the different layers of clouds in there. You can almost kind of make out the hexagon area, but not quite. But still, that's one of my best pictures of Saturn. And again, single shot off the iPhone. Ridiculous. Not a bad way to go. And this is probably one of my favorite iPhone images I've ever taken. And this is this is not the heart emoji. I know it looks like the heart emoji on Facebook. This is not. This is a very strange, mysterious object called RO11, or Campbell's hydrogen star. It's not far from Albireo in the constellation Cygnus. And I think I'm loose on the definition of what this thing is. I believe it's some type of Wolf-Rayet star or some type of protoplanetary nebula. But at any rate, it's got a massive cloud of hydrogen around it. And in small telescopes, you can make it out as non-stellar. But in 100-inch telescopes, you can resolve color with the cell phone. I can't even describe to y'all what this thing, it looked like a star with red spaghetti around it, because I could see the fibrous, like the fibers of the clouds, you know. And when I put these pictures online, you know, people had never seen RO11. I've never seen RO11 before this particular thing. I'd never even really heard of it. Campbell's hydrogen star, what? And so when we put these kind of images online that we can easily take with our iPhone of Saturn or Jupiter, this is outreach in the purest form, and it's going to be like spread throughout. Especially people love it and they share it with their friends, like, man, look at this, you know. And so my whole thing to y'all is to get on this and try to find out how you can share astronomy more. If it's in person, great, and if it's through your cell phone, hey, even better. NASA socials is one thing I want to quickly mention as I'm wrapping this up. If you are into NASA in any way, I don't care how much you're into NASA, you have got to start signing up for these NASA socials. They're free. All you have to do is apply. They ask for your social media stuff, like you have to give them, if you have a Twitter, Throw that out there. If you have a Facebook, throw that in there, a YouTube, whatever. The more you have, the better, because what they do is they allow people like us to come out and tour things we should never be allowed on or near ever. But we get to go out and do these things. And I've been on 4 NASA socials, 2 launches, one to the Michoud assembly facility in New Orleans, Louisiana, and also the Stennis or the space testing complex, where they tested all the Apollo engines, the shuttle engines, and where they will test SLS coming up, I think, in October. But my first one was on this plane right here. They actually let us walk on this plane. And it's a plane called Sophia. If you're not familiar, it's a 747 with a shorter fuselage. And they rammed a telescope in the back. That is a 100-inch, I believe it's 104. So it's as big as the Hooker, I think, telescope on Mount Wilson, but it's got a lot shorter of a focal length. And what's cool about this is you can get above the atmosphere, where you can get all that faint exotic light like infrared and other kinds of crazy fun things. And but what's better about this than a space telescope is you can change the instruments out. Also, there's no real payload requirement weight limits. So you can make this crazy magnetometer thing that does this awesome stuff and then go take pictures of it out past the atmosphere. It's an incredible project. Google Sophia if you get the chance, and go check it out. I have a video on my YouTube about the whole experience. I think you'd enjoy it. It's a pretty complex airplane. It's a really complex experiment, and it works, and it works well. So check out their data. They've got magnetic stuff about the Orion Nebula and some galaxies like M82, I think. They've done magnetic observations, and they can show you the magnetic fields of these objects, which is absolutely insane. So go check out Sophia. It's a project with NASA and the DLR, which is the German version of NASA, if you will. And they're great. You get to meet so many people. You get to do outreach with other people. You can see they're not all space geeks in here. You've got some beauty, what they call beauty social media people that do makeup reviews and makeup how-tos. I know that sounds crazy, but they bring them out because we have to diversify our portfolio, right? We have to get the science stuff out to all the outlets. And so all they have to do is apply, and they're pretty much accepted. But I've made some amazing friends. I could go through here and name multiple people, but that's me right there, right behind Jim Bridenstine. That's Butch. He's an astronaut. And it's Bob Cabana. As far as I know right here, I may have gotten his first name wrong. I think that's his last name. He's in charge of Kennedy Space Center. Super cool guy. He's been on multiple shuttle missions and things like this. So I'm like standing in a crowd full of people that are way better than me at everything, which is awesome. You always want to do that. You always want to put yourself in those kind of situations so you learn more. And one of the other ones I went to, we got to tour that big building in the back that a lot of y'all might recognize, the Vehicle Assembly Building. It's only in every NASA-inspired movie ever made. That's where the Apollo rockets were assembled. That's where the shuttle was assembled. And that's where SLS, the Space Launch System, NASA's newest rocket, is going to be assembled. We got to view all kinds of things in there. They're stacking everything. We got to view the SLS crawler. It's in there. It's ready. It's waiting for SLS, which I think is amazing. But you can see the crowd here. It's all really cool people, really fun. And then I'm sure a lot of y'all recognize that door, right? It's probably the most famous door on the surface of the planet. Every astronaut that has walked from nappy time to spacey time walked through that door. You know, they stay in these quarters. They're quarantined for, I think, a few weeks. So they make sure they're not sick and everything is good. And then they walk them out this door into the NASA van, and they're off to the rocket to go on to space. We'll play a little bit of Where's Waldo, but we'll change it to Where's Wildo because I'm in this picture somewhere. And for the sake of time, I'm back here. You can see me. I didn't know that the picture was being taken as people started crowding around me. But you can see the mission patches all above the door here of all the missions that have run through this facility. And I can tell you that one sent a chill up and down my spine, and it kind of got to me a little bit. And it was the Challenger sticker for that mission that was up there. And we all, several of us, 3 or 4 of us, kind of recognized it. And we all just kind of stood there, you know, because they would have put that up there right before they got on board. And I believe Columbia is up there as well, which is incredible. I got to touch both of those with my hand, so I haven't washed this hand since. Even with COVID, I've been scrubbing down here. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. But one thing I want to leave y'all with before we close out, I know I've talked a lot about iPhones and night visions and stuff, but this is one thing that I'm doing recently that I'm super fired up about. These are what's called red sprites. This is a lightning phenomenon that is not very well understood, but there are some fantastic resources out there for it. I was at the Prude Ranch a couple of weeks ago, like I said, and my friend Mark Farage handed me his night vision scope and said, have fun. And I saw one naked eye. I saw the red sprite naked eye. So I immediately started filming with my iPhone. And that's kind of what you're seeing here. I caught a meteor there. This night vision stuff is absolutely absurd. But these red sprites are kind of an enigma. We kind of have an idea of what they are. They're excited nitrogen in the atmosphere that's caused by positive lightning. I don't know the specifics. I'm more of an astronomy guy, but I can tell y'all when I saw this naked eye, it blew my mind. I've seen them before, and I had only ever caught one before at the year before at 2019 Texas Star Party over that same hill. A lot of y'all may recognize this hill as Skirt Hill, which is where the team puts a little doghouse shape or sized light, basically the size of a doghouse, and it has different lines on it where you can point your telescope and see what kind of resolution limits you're getting. And kind of test the resolution settings of your telescope, which is kind of neat. But it's there, and and whenever it's there, it has a little point of light on top, just like a star is sitting right there all night long. Of course, you don't see that on this evening because the Texas Star Party didn't happen this year. But these night vision shots that I got are some of the craziest that I've ever seen. When I was catching them, I was just freaking out. If you've ever observed with me, like Terry said, it can probably get a little annoying. I just like see something, I'm like, wow, you know, come look at us, you know, and I'll grab people and drag them over to a scope. And this was one of those kind of things where I have a friend at the McDonald Observatory, Stephen Hummel. He does their live streams from the McDonald Observatory recently. If you've been catching those, they're amazing. If you haven't been catching those, please let me know and I will get y'all the link. I think there's one happening tonight, actually at 10 p.m. So McDonald Observatory on YouTube. You got to check them out. Stephen Hummel, good friend of mine. He's a sprite hunter. He's an avid astrophotographer, deep sky genius. This guy, Stephen Hummel. He's the man. But we've been chasing sprites together, and he was actually at the McDonald Observatory taking DSLR images of these exact sprites while I was down at the Prude on the upper field filming them, which I thought was pretty awesome. And you see it's just a really weird phenomenon. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. It just sort of happens above the clouds. These things happen about 60 miles above the Earth's atmosphere or above the Earth's surface. And they can extend for about that far themselves, about 20 to 60 miles tall, these things. And they're right at the edge of where aurora happens. So after them, sometimes they trigger miniature auroras right at the top, and you can catch some of these. Those are called ghosts. So a red sprite will happen, and then it'll form into a ghost, which has just been recently named, guys. This is new stuff. These red sprites were first photographed in like the late 80s, and now here we are catching video of them. And I'll go ahead and skip to this last one here. This video is on YouTube. If y'all want to watch it, you can watch it in much more detail, much more probably clearer resolution. But this is 240 frames a second on a sprite. I may be the only person with like 240 frames a second on sprites so far. I'm not exactly sure. I think there is some other slow-mo video, but this is what the iPhone allows you to do. And you know, hopefully I did a little bit of outreach here tonight for you guys on what red sprites are. Maybe you'd heard of them, maybe you hadn't really seen them, or you've seen them and you just have never really seen iPhone video of this pretty strange phenomena that we have here. And again, in combination with the night vision, it's just absolutely epic stuff. So I'll leave y'all with this. I encourage y'all to do more outreach. I know y'all do a lot, but maybe some of you members that are here, maybe you don't participate too much. at the outreach events. I would encourage you to do it, because like everybody on here that just received their first level outreach certificate can attest, when you go out and do astronomy for the general public, even if it's the moon, you don't have to go knowing all the ins and the outs of this kind of stuff. Just go out and tell them what you know, which could be this crater's called Copernicus, sorry, or this one's called Tycho, or this one's called Plato. If you tell them that, they didn't know that before, and now you've handed them something new. And because you did that, you're going to be richer for that experience, and you're going to learn more, because you're going to have to memorize which one's Plato, which one's Copernicus, which one's Tycho, and all these other things. So y'all are a great club. I really appreciate y'all having me come over and do just a kind of a highlights reel of what I've been working on, but also how I've been trying to affect astronomy for the general public in outreach through my social media. I encourage y'all to do the same. And I know Don Davies does with Earthbound Astronomer. Does an incredible job. And a lot of you guys I know are going to start doing it in the future, or, you know, just bring your scope out whenever this whole COVID mess passes. Get out there and show the public something. I think they'll enjoy it. So thank you guys so much for coming. Appreciate all you asset members who joined us. Eddie Trevino, I see you there. Sharon and everybody. Thank you, Tasha. Thank y'all for joining us. Chuck, see you there too. And I'll turn it back over to the Partridge Family guy to my left here.
I'm not sure what that means. Hey, thanks, Will.
Welcome.
That was great. Do you have any idea how far away those sprites were from you?
Yeah. Those storms were west or east of San Angelo.
Okay.
So we're talking 250, 300 miles.
Yeah. Okay. I have a good idea that I was underneath those driving. So I think that's the night I drove from Bad Wolf Ranch to Stellar Skies in a terrible thunderstorm, lightning like crazy.
Yeah, and it's apparently cloud to cloud, or cloud to cloud, mostly with a positive leader that will drop. So yeah, if you ever see those underneath the clouds, you can almost imagine that red sprites are happening right above your head, which is crazy.
So has anybody got questions for Will here?
I do. Will, I got a question for you. On 2019 at Okie-Tex, did we not see sprites? I think you were even trying to capture them one night. They were very straight up north of us. Pink?
Yeah. Pink, yeah, pinkish, if you're close enough. There was, they're also attributed to the gravity wave phenomenon, which again is not gravitational waves, as most of y'all know. The gravity waves, which are almost like it's in the air glow above the immediate atmosphere we have. They're triggered by that. And so there was one night where I was using Mike Lockwood's night vision to try to capture some sprites, but I was unsuccessful. They don't always happen. They'll turn on. It was weird because we were at the Prude and I got a message from my friend Stephen Hummel and it said sprites. And so I immediately knew to look toward the lightning because we could see the flickering lightning off on the horizon. And as soon as I did, I saw one. And I immediately ran to the camper to get my DSLR, which was great because there wasn't a bunch of people to trip on. I knew exactly where I could run in the darkness to get to the thing. So, but I didn't see those at Okie-Tex, Brian, but it's you have to have dark skies to see these things. You need a moonless night, really, but you will see them visually. Most of the time they look like a white flash and they're gone. And you're like, what was that? And you may just brush it off as lightning. But you saw structure in them, like little fingers or little columns sticking up in the sky, or it's like jellyfish. Yeah. So those are red sprites. They are absolutely visible naked eye.
Somebody else?
I'll go next. Hey, Will.
Hey.
So yes, familiar with how tremendously expensive that night vision monoscope is. Have you done any research into a more acceptable price point product that might be a little bit more reasonable for us out there that really want that nice one that you've been playing with but can't necessarily conceive of spending that much money?
No, absolutely. There's one called the Psionics Aurora. Okay, Psionics is spelled S-I-O-N-I-X, I know that's weird, but psionics. It's called the Aurora. They have two versions. They have the Aurora Sport and the Aurora, I don't know what it's called, but it's dark green. So the Sport is a white unit. The dark green is the whatever the other one is. And one is a little more expensive than the other. They both basically do the same things, but the difference there is their digital night vision, which has some severe pros and some amazing cons. You know, it's like both sides of it. They're a lot cheaper. They're $4.99 or $3.99 versus
10 times that.
you know, $39.99.99. You know, so they're much more affordable, and also they're in color. So if you see, you know, and if you look through a lot of my Deep Sky Dude videos on YouTube, you'll see that, especially from the El Dorado Star Party, where I was using that to film a lot of us kind of in action doing our astronomy on the ground. You'll see red lights as red flashlights, whereas in the military grade night vision, you'll see a red flashlight as an overwhelmingly bright green sort of thing that's over there. You'll ask people to turn it off. It's so overwhelmingly bright. So there are other options. I have afocally, you know, taken an eyepiece and the psionics and just sort of held them together. Does okay. It does the Orion Nebula with exquisite color, reds and greens and all kinds of crazy stuff. The Ring Nebula had pinks and greens and bluish tones in it, just from, you know, putting the psionics up to my 22-inch. So there are options out there. Now we'll have to get someone like Brian or someone that's good at 3D printing to help us marry the two together in some way.
A little
Teleview,
wide for the XYZ, it looks like.
yeah, or something exactly like that. Teleview has the market cornered. Oh, dude, yeah, and you know, absolutely. But Teleview has it on lockdown when it comes to the military grade. They are the only game in town when it comes to marrying a PVS-14, which is the name of that little tube that you guys saw, to a Teleview eyepiece. They have the adapter, they have the phone mount, they have it all. It's wildly expensive, but they do have it, and they're the only game in town. So, but a friend of mine, Stephen Hummel, and I are actually seriously talking about going in together on one of those PVS-14s, which I'll tell you what it is, but I can message y'all this because it's a long name. It's a PVS-14 Gen 3 white phosphor. That's important. It has to be white phosphor, and it has to be filmless. If you buy the white phosphor with film, you're going to be like, what have I done? If you buy the white phosphor with filmless, you're going to pay extra several $100s, but you're going to be like, I did the right thing. We've done the research. There's Cloudy Night forums ad nauseum out there. So y'all can, man, there's so much, it's too much to read. But there are other options out there. And like you said, Don, maybe as technology rolls, maybe we start getting cheaper and cheaper options. It's kind of hard to tell, but that is an option. And there is some test video on that El Dorado Star Party video on my YouTube.
Thanks, darling.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, by the way.
Imager worth exploring?
Say it again. I'm sorry, Steve.
Is the Revolution Imager worth exploring?
I'm not sure. I've heard of that one. I'm not sure if it's an image intensifier or not. I've only ever had a chance to play with the PVS-14 and the Psionics Aurora. But I've played with a couple of I've played with a Mod 3 as well, which is another military grade night vision. Not as good as the PVS-14, and not as good as, you know, all the other bells and whistles that I said. So there's definitely some that are okay and some that are, you know. So if you're going to spend the money, it seems like the PVS-14 is the best option on the market. By the way, you also have to sign an ITAR waiver, which I didn't know this. You have to sign saying that you will not mail this thing out of the United States of America, because it is that highly controlled, because they don't want this stuff getting into the wrong hands, right? So if you're going to keep it at your house, though, hey, who cares, right? Sign the waiver and get on with it, right? So, but it's pretty cool stuff.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the question.
Hey, Will, this is Chris Bernhardt. I want to thank you for your time, and I've appreciated your videos on YouTube. I really got jazzed and informed about my first TSP thanks to your short videos. And it's always fun to watch it afterwards as well. And of course, your videos of Brian and Don were fun as well. I want to ask you, going back to star parties and engagement of people outside of night vision, are there other things that we should be thinking about or we could be doing to enhance the experience for first-time observers, folks coming out not sure what they're going to see? Sometimes people are just wowed by actually seeing the rings, but sometimes people are, they're thinking online, they're thinking Hubble, and that's not what we have. Is there anything else that we should be thinking about, whether it's TVs or, I'm not trying to dumb it down, but have you seen any best practices or any innovative ideas that, we'd be worth playing around a bit, some of our public events when things open up?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot, the technology that we're all using as amateur astronomers is a lot more accessible now than it used to be. I mean, we can get a nice CMOS sensor for, a few $100, and it can actually do some incredible work there. The thing that I always try to do at our outreach events, I've lost count of how many outreach hours I have. It's got to be close to 200 now, which is absurd. But I go to the George Observatory a lot, which is right here in Houston. So those are long observing nights with the public. Those are long outreach sessions. But over time, you just you try to prepare them for exactly what you said. Like, okay, guys, you're not going to see like an amazing Hubble image. You're going to see a thing about this big that is actually the entire planet Saturn, but it's overwhelmingly far away. This is almost 1 billion miles away, this planet. It's 900 and something million miles or whatever it is, I always try to give them that preface. So while there's a line on my telescope at these outreach events, it almost seems like I just don't stop talking, and I'm trying to prepare the next 3 or 4 people. The person at the eyepiece you've already lost them. They're either blown away by what they're seeing, or they're distracted, or they look for 3 seconds and then they're out, whatever it is. But everybody in the line coming up they're attentive. They're ready for whatever you have to say. And so that's one thing that I would suggest is just know a couple of things about the object you're showing. Try to maybe only show one object a night, whether it's the moon or Saturn or Jupiter or, some star cluster out there. And just try to give them some little nugget of, information like, if this galaxy that you guys are looking at or a star cluster, let's just say, is 25,000 light years away. Tell them that. Tell them the light that's hitting your eye right now left there 25,000 years ago. And it drills that into their brain, and they're like, what? And yeah, it's a time machine, this thing. It's a telescope, right? But it's a time machine kind of. And so stuff like that. And we've looked at ways of solar outreach as well. We do a lot of that as asset. And one thing that I found that worked particularly well was I set a hydrogen alpha telescope. We have a Lunt 50 mil in the club's inventory. I took that Lunt 50 mil and rammed a ZWO 120. It's like their cheapest camera. It's like $200 or so. I ran that in there, and then I had that image piped to it's like a 40-inch television. Even in the daytime, the kids could walk up to the television and see an active image of the sun. I almost said moon. You can't see the moon with a Lunt telescope, unfortunately. And that, I think that had a pretty big impact, especially on solar. So lunar would be incredible for that. Do the same thing with a refractive telescope, little camera, and hit the moon. And people with visual impairments, maybe they're wheelchair bound and they can't get to the eyepiece. I know that is a problem for a lot of people. They can't climb a ladder to an eyepiece that's 5 feet in the air on a Dobsonian. That's massive. So some of these things can actually help a little bit. And it's all about, your enthusiasm and if you're like, this is Saturn, they're not gonna care by the time they get to the eyepiece. They're gonna look and be like, wow, he was right. This is Saturn, man. But if you give them something powerful that they can sort of take with them, is almost like a knowledge souvenir. I find that really does help. And but as technology gets better, there's probably more on the horizon that we can do. So I'm interested and I'm open to ideas as well. But thank you for your question. Thanks, Chris, and thanks for supporting the channel, man. I appreciate that the videos are working for somebody else. That's awesome. That's great.
Will, I have another question.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience or any opinion on the unistellar EV scope? Just from a standpoint of, talking about the type of equipment that's designed and directed towards outreach.
Yeah, exactly. I will preface everything I'm about to say with the fact that I've never touched one. I've never seen one in action. I've only heard anecdotal evidence that it is good. I am not a fan, but that's just me personally. If you ask me about this scope or Starlink satellites, I'm probably going to give you the wrong version of Will that you may not exactly like. But no, it's a tool. I think it's an overpriced tool, to be honest with you, for what it is. It's an 80 millimeter triplet refractor, I think, at the core of this thing, and an eyepiece that you can never look through. There's pros and cons to that. Now, if you're somebody that wants to use it specifically for outreach, I think it could have a positive impact there. I really do.
Yeah.
If you've got the cash to throw at it. But everything in astronomy is expensive, right? So that's just the way it goes. But I'll reserve my opinions on image quality until I can actually look at one. But again, what that scope does is, at least one of the versions, it sends the image to your phone, which you might as well maybe just Google the image for them. I feel like in outreach, for me especially, what got me back into astronomy as an adult was a trip to the McDonald Observatory back in 2006 or 7, whenever it was. And I literally saw, I think it was it was M51 or one of them, or the Sunflower Galaxy. And then I saw Jupiter too. I mean, I knew all these objects existed and I'd seen some of them in telescopes, but not like that. And that blew my mind, because I knew kind of what I was looking at, and I was like, whoa, so I feel like the photons hitting your eyeball, whether amplified or not, are a powerful thing. So, but I don't know. I would love to hear, maybe this goes back to Chris's question where, you have a couple of these little scopes laid out and they're kind of doing different stuff, and, people can maybe tap into them with their iPhone and get in there and take their own images or things like this. I don't know. It'd be an interesting thing, but my knee-jerk reaction to that.
I've seen one. I have not had the pleasure of seeing through it, because unfortunately the night it was showcased, Brian and I went during South by, and it was, of course, overcast. It is definitely a pretty penny. It is in very ways just a big toy in a sense. It's not exactly a telescope per se. There's definitely something for it to be said due to its size and weight and fitting into a backpack, but I'm sure we can go into much further conversations about the pros and cons at another point in time. Cool.
Yeah, and like I said, technology over the years is going to allow more and more of this. Imagine when the first digital eyepiece comes out, and this is a concept my buddy Mark and I have been actually talking about. That we just need a few $1 million and a couple of investors, and we can really make this happen, because digital EAA, the electronically assisted astronomy, that EAA is all over cloudy nights. So, and I'm a new kid on the block when it comes to this stuff. There's people that have done way more testing and way more research in the field than I have, but there's all kinds of new stuff on the horizon. It's a good question though.
Hey, Will, one more time, would you say the Sony camera model and also the Celestron camera holder? Yeah.
The Sony camera that I have is the Sony A7S Mark II. If you're gonna Google it, don't put two, put 2 lowercase i's. So A7S II. I know that's weird, but that's how they do it. The A7S is not going to get you where the A7S Mark II will get you. I think the A7S only goes up to ISO 60,000 or 40,000, which is an absurd number. Yeah, Argarga is typing it in there in the chat, so thank you, R. The A7S Mark II does 500,000 ISO in 4K video. So that's why I went that direction. I bought that camera specifically to shoot the 2017 solar eclipse, which was really dumb that I bought a low light level camera to shoot the sun. But I did it for 4K. So, and by the way, the video that I shot of the eclipse, that paid off. I mean, it's been used in the Science Channel's How the Universe Works. They got the clip from me. It's on there. It's on an episode about solar eclipses. It's been used by German television a couple of times on something. I don't know, they paid me for it, but I never got to see it, which was kind of a bummer. I'd rather just seen it and not get paid for it, honestly. Just to be like, yeah, but.
Rob Pettengill in our club was an early adopter of that camera, and he's done some really good work with it. I think when he bought it, when it first came out, it was about $2,300. Is it still that expensive?
Yeah, you can get a used one now for probably around $1,800 to $2,000, and that's the camera body only. I bought mine new with a lens. The lens was about $1,000 to go with it, but it's T-Star glass, which I didn't know is a really awesome glass. My buddy Greg Bragg at Celestron Telescopes was like, dude, that's like some of the best glass in the world. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, well, awesome. So it works out. But if you want, guys, I mean, all those, literally, I'll tell you all my secrets. Since we're not broadcasting on the internet, I'm not going to give away anything here. That camera is on auto. With all those images that y'all saw that I first showed at the first of the meeting, those are all auto. I just turned it to the little green A and then hit the button and walked off. You know, and that's what the camera does. It figures out how long it needs to go in seconds, what ISO it needs, what f-stop or whatever. It does it all. It does it all in camera. And that's not a slow lens either. I think it's a f4 lens. I'm sorry, it's not a fast lens. When you're shooting low light, most people want f2 or whatever, but the price goes through the roof.
We won't tell anybody about that. So
please don't.
So the Celestron camera holder that you mentioned for the iPhone.
Yeah, the XYZ, and it looks like there's a link in the chat. Yeah, Dawn, thank you so much, Dawn. And then
great.
Brian's got one right there,
Phenomenal.
Vanna White style, which is fantastic.
I've already used that adapter. Actually, 4 of us have used that adapter in different locations around the city for a live social distancing star party. And what's phenomenal about it, sorry not to take over Will, is that it allows you to move the mount with your camera on it far enough down so you can use your eye to look through the eyepiece and make modifications and changes without having to pull the adapter off. Like, that is huge.
That is a great point. And then everyone struggles with, you know, those suction cup ones, getting the phone on the exact right spot and getting it. That's never going to work because you can adjust it like this all day long on the eyepiece, but it's like this that really is crucial because you have to get the exact exit pupil over the entire camera lens. If you don't, you'll get like vignetting to one side, or you'll get severe chromatic aberrations and things. It's all about
someone who has to pull off a case and fiddle with it, you know.
Yeah. And it's great for outreach too. Celestron just put out a new scope, by the way, that has a similar mount to the XYZ, except it looks at a mirror, which looks at the sky. And I am not joking with y'all that it in the app, it plate solves. So it looks at the sky, wherever the refractor or whatever telescope you have. And the camera of your iPhone is plate solving the sky to go, oh, you're in Ursa Major. What do you want to look at? And then you're like, well, I want to look at this globular cluster. And it'll tell you if it's viewable from the city or from dark skies. You click on it and it shows you an arrow. And now you manually move the scope. And it knows. Like if you barely tap the scope or barely nudge it, the software, which is based on Sky Safari, will kind of nudge with you. It's crazy how precise and accurate it is. And those are called, man, I can't remember the name. They're the
Star Expanse or something like that.
Star Sense, yeah.
Star Sense. I've got a brand new one in the back of my car right now. I haven't gotten first light with it yet. So it's only $350. It's the price of a good eyepiece. It's not a great telescope, but I think it's got a Vixen dovetail, so you could put a better scope on it. So I'm going to try it out this weekend.
That's exactly right. And what some people, there's another, again, I hate to bring up Cloudy Nights too much, but there's another thread on there about taking that, buying the $150 version of that taking that adapter off that telescope and putting it on your Dob or your Schmidt or your whatever.
Yes.
And now you have a push-to system
Uh-huh.
that is, no object is safe from you, basically. I mean, you'll be able to use it all night long. It is plate solving, which is absolutely absurd to me. But it is doing that. And
Don't give me ideas.
hey, and see, again, we need Brian to fashion us a mount to just, stick that thing on there. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be exactly aligned, just like a Telrad. Get it on there, and then you align it at the beginning of your night. You align the scope with the street light with the app, and it does everything for you. And then it's like, okay, what do you want to see? It's immediately aligned. There's no GPS. There's no entering your date, and time, and location. There's none of that. It's all based on your smartphone. You do have to have a smartphone, and the software that comes with the telescope for free.
It doesn't even need a network connection.
That's right. Yeah, it does everything built
Software.
into the app.
Wow.
And this could be huge for outreach, because let's say y'all have a group. This is what I want to use it for asset. We Sharon Rigsby down here in the chat with us. Wave to us, Sharon. She's down there. She is our Boy Scout liaison for the Beaumont Club. And so we have Boy Scouts come in, and she teaches them all this amazing stuff about astronomy, and other members get in there too when they can. But what's amazing is we could set a scope out with that apparatus on there and have these Boy Scouts find their own objects in a telescope and actually find them, like point it to Jupiter. Well, which one's Jupiter? I don't know. Ask the app, and then they'll put it in. They'll like, oh, okay, there's Jupiter. And then it'll say, go point it that way. And boom, you're on Jupiter. And you're not close, you're on it. It's absolutely stunning technology, and I think we've only seen the beginning of that. I mean, Celestron is going to probably go nuts with this because Celestron and Skywatcher are basically the same company, and Skywatcher makes all the big Dobs, the Stargate and all the foldable stuff. So there's about to be some crosstalk, I think, and but. I encourage Terry to break that thing out and play with it. It will blow. Like I literally, it was the first thing I went to was Beehive. Having done nothing other than put my phone on there and align it to a street light, and it was dead on. And I was just like, wow, I got in my backyard. I know my neighbors probably think I'm nuts because I'm always out there talking into a cell phone while I'm live streaming or whatever. But it was one of those wow moments. Like even as jaded as I am as an astronomer, the Beehive cluster being in this telescope after the alignment was absolutely absurd to me. So give it a shot. It's not a paid endorsement. I'm just a dude that likes products that are good.
This would be like setting circles on steroids. It's still a push-to scope, but you could use this as your guide. So this would totally fit on a big Dob. I'll get right on it.
Exactly. Keep me updated, Brian. I can't wait to see your progress.
One more question. Have you had any use with the Orion Steady Picks that basically clips over an eyepiece and holds either a phone or a small point and shoot camera?
Yeah, I know the mount you're talking about, but I never jumped out and got that one. I started with the old Magnalux phone holder back when the iPhone was like this big. And then of course, as the years went by, they got bigger and bigger. So that Magnalux mount, I couldn't use it anymore. It's actually still in this closet right here. So there's a bunch that I skipped. I haven't messed with that particular one, although it does look nice in that it will clamp to bigger eyepieces. Although some of your 2-inch stuff, the 2-inch pan optics and things like that, it might be a little hard to get it on there.
Yeah, it does the 1.25 inch.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the NextYZ is you can easily get most 2-inch eyepieces on there, or it on there. And also when it has a little hand style clamp that you just kind of squeeze and it opens, and then you put it on the eyepiece and you let it go. But it also has a screw that on the side, a little orange screw that as you tighten it down, that grip really bites in. And there's almost no way you can bite into an eyepiece too much, right? You probably don't want to go too far, but you can cinch it down really well where that thing is going to hold on to the eyepiece to where I've never done it. But if the mount was big enough, obviously you could probably put an iPad in there and still use it. Obviously it's not that big, but with a cell phone, I have to take my case off and everything, But these cell phones aren't exactly light, you know. There's actually injuries to the elbow and the hands that you can get from doing too much social media, which I found out. But you know, these things aren't light, and the Celestron does a really good job. But there's a lot of people that do swear by those Orion mounts. I have no personal experience with them.
Yeah, I've used it a couple of times. I've had people say to me, you know, can I take a picture of this and work with them with the steady pics. I've also used the steady pics with white light filter on my scope to take pictures of sunspots.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great way to do it.
I've had good luck with it, and it's relatively inexpensive. It's roughly $50.
Yeah, I think you can get the Celestron XYZ now for $41 on Amazon. That's what I saw it a couple of weeks
Gone
ago.
up a little bit, but it's still very reasonable for
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah,
getting.
we're talking the same price bracket. Yeah.
Yeah, I paid $70 for mine, so I feel like Celestron kind of owes me a few bucks. You know, 'cause it's like, do I get a rebate or something? Is that how this works? But I would pay $70 again and again and again. In fact, I'm going to buy another one pretty soon, just in case mine breaks, because that's how I do all my live streams on Facebook. And people really need the moon, apparently, because they come to my live streams from all over the world, and they're like, it's crazy. And I'm like, y'all, if y'all really know how, this is literally a cell phone on a medium range refractor. You know, this is nothing special. But it's the vibe everybody gets from being in a kind of a chat room like this. You know, even though we're socially distant, we're really just physically distant. We're actually socially more connected now than I think ever in the history of humans, maybe, especially with the technology we have. So that's a powerful thing. So, but if there's no more questions, guys, I want to do a quick shout out for Dawn Davies, who is down somewhere. There she is down here. She will be at our club meeting tomorrow night, which will be broadcast live on YouTube and Facebook. And my friend down here below her, Eddie Trevino, somewhere down there. There's Eddie and his wife, Kat. Those are the treasurers for our club. Eddie's a longtime visual observer. Dude's a genius, and he's a great friend of mine. And he's our treasurer. He'll be there tomorrow night as well at around 7 p.m. And again, we're going to broadcast those live on YouTube and Facebook. There are links in the side chat here. And if you guys need, you know, if you need the link better, we can get it to you. I think Terry could probably email it to you, or I could message it to you. Those videos are up and waiting, just waiting for me to hit go live. So, and that'll be tomorrow at 7. And again, thank you. Dawn asked me to be on y'all's thing, and I was so honored that I immediately said yes, because I was like, Austin people want to hear me talk for ridiculous amounts of time. It's awesome.
And then went, hey, we meet on the same night.
Yeah, and then I was like, wait, what day is that? And I was like, oh yeah, that's the asset meeting. Whoops. So a massive fail there as president, but it happens. So what I did is I spun it, you know, and I was like, oh, I meant to do that. We're just going to have a 2-night 2-club event. And so here we are. So I invite all y'all to come over and hang out with us as the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas tomorrow night, if you so choose. We'll be broadcasting, and we've got some fun stuff. Dawn's going to do her talk on constellations, and there'll be a couple of other little fun things here and there, and a relaxed vibe just like this. And so I would look forward to seeing y'all. And again, thank you guys so much for allowing me to come over here and talk to y'all and do this sort of outreach from one club to another, which I think is fantastic that we can do this. And I didn't have to drive 3 hours to get to y'all, so that's even better.
Well, thank you, Will. It's been a long time since we've been together, so it's really good to see you again. And I think everybody got a lot out of this, so appreciate it.
Thank you, man. You too.
Everyone has a lot more expensive purchases to make now.
Yeah.
I've already sold one kidney, and from what I understand, you can't sell both. So,
will a kidney get you the Sony A7S? Because no,
I got like $50 for it.
What about like kidney and a lung?
I know some people.
Yeah. Okay.
You can live on half a liver.
I can't live on half.
Greg would say
No,
that.
I'm sorry.
You just can't
No.
drink
You
anymore.
might be able to live on half.
Half a liver.
I'm not living on full.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, you just can't drink anymore. That's the problem.
Okay, guys. Well, we're at the bottom of the agenda here. Too bad we can't go grab pizza, but I still have half a pizza left here, so I am going to do that. And I hope some of you do show up tomorrow night and see what it looks like in their club. I'll try if I've got my wife's away now, so it depends on what she says when she gets back, but we'll try and get there.
I think I got the link correct.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, there are links in there in the chat that I see, and I am gonna real quick before y'all go. This is a link for a live stream that's about to happen as soon as we get off here, basically at 10 p.m. My buddy Stephen Hummel from the McDonald Observatory, because they have clear skies like 367 days a year out there. He will be broadcasting live tonight, broadcasting some deep sky objects. So go over there, shout out Stephen, and give him some round of applause. He's a great guy and he does great work. And again, I hope to see y'all tomorrow over on the Asset meeting, because we'd love to have our friends from Austin, because we're sister clubs, right? We're all Texas clubs, so that's the way it works.
Do you have a link for the broadcast that you mentioned is coming up?
Yes, the link to the broadcast that we're going to do are in the chat. You can also go to Facebook and look up the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas, or go to YouTube and search my channel, the Deep Sky Dude channel. I'll be simultaneously broadcasting it there as well. So if you can't find the Facebook for whatever reason for the club, you can go find it on the YouTube. And then Steven's broadcast from McDonald is the most recent YouTube link that I put in the little chat. I'm not exactly sure. I think you have to go to the little bottom here and put and type or hit the chat button, and it should bring it up, and you can kind of see it in there.
Okay.
But it's definitely worth checking out, y'all.
That's what I'm looking for.
And I know Will is not one to stroke his ego too much, so I'll do it for him. If you have not checked out his Deep Sky Dude Volume 1 and 2, definitely get it. It's great background music for your astronomical observing or just chilling or whatever. I mean, he really didn't go into a whole lot of it tonight, but Will is extremely multifaceted. I mean, we're talking astronomer, musician, pilot.
Yep, soon to be. I gotta go pass my check ride. The FAA is kind of weird, but I'm gonna do it.
Yes, you are. It's awesome.
I thank you for shouting that out, because I do forget there's a lot of stuff going on, so I forget that. But there is volumes 1 and 2 out there.
I'm waiting for 3.
Yeah, three's coming. The first single just released 2 weeks ago, I think. Yeah, Red Dwarf is the first single from that. The next one will be called Olympia Mountains, which is coming out in the next few days. So it's I wanted to do a song with alternative finger picking instead of just strumming a guitar. So I did a little alternative picking style song that kind of reminded me of the Davis Mountains. And we all know that before they were called the Davis Mountains, they were called the Olympia Mountains. So I wanted to kind of hide the little, dig it in there. I like weird song titles. Like I was telling Terry, I came up with a song title last night, and I'll leave y'all with this and I'll shut up. But everybody knows the star Algol, right? It's a very famous star. But then I was like, Algol Rhythm. That's gonna be like a hilarious song title. I have song titles like In Cygnus and In Health, because every time somebody they'd ask me what object is what constellation is that object in? It's like, oh, it's in Cygnus, and then I'd always say and In Health, and no one ever really laughed or got it, So I'm like, I'm gonna make it a song title, and then they can't avoid it anymore.
Shove it down their throats.
Yeah, In Cygnus and In Health.
If you ever get into some kind of like angsty sort of music phase, it needs to seem like the curse of, Larry Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
The ballad of Larry Mitchell,
Yeah, the Mitchell Anonymous catalog should be the name of that one or something.